Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Junction Cast. This is episode number 6. Mark, here with my co-host Brandon.
How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Another day, another dollar.
Another day, another dollar, as
Yeah,
they say.
yeah. We're obviously right in the thick of October, Spooktober,
Spooky, scary skeletons and
horror month, the month of Halloween. So obviously a lot of good stuff going on coming up for that.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, let's just get right into it. I guess because we talked about this last week, and I guess it fits right in with Chainsaw Man. I know you weren't able to watch the whole season before we
Right.
started. I was able to a few hours before we actually went live, finish all 12 episodes and stuff like that. And I just have to say, this it's a show that I knew about, but I didn't. It was at a time like this came out in 2022 that I was just not really actively watching anime at the time. It's a several year lull where I really wasn't paying a whole lot of attention, but I knew about it, and a lot of people definitely loved it. But this show definitely grabbed me like right from the start. I was like, this is actually not too bad. And then the more it went on, I was like, I just absolutely love this show, love the character, love Denji and stuff like that. And I know I believe it was December of 23, if I'm not mistaken, there was a movie announced for whatever the next arc is after what was in the first 12 episodes. And then I assume there's going to be another TV show, maybe another movie moving forward. But I was like, probably not getting anything else for the immediate future. It makes me want to actually dig in and actually read the manga, because I know the manga goes much further in the actual story than where the anime is. But I mean, I can explicitly see why the show was so popular. Uh, I don't know whether this is relevant for anybody, but as far as like my anime list, it's ranked 150 with a popularity of 70 and stuff like that. So it's, if it's up there on Mal and stuff like that, it's got a decent following. Though not everybody
Yeah.
uses my anime list. It's it's good for different information, or I mainly use it to keep track of what I haven't watched, just to make sure.
That's a good idea. I should do that. I should start tracking. I use Game Eye, which is a game tracker.
Yeah.
So I should start doing that. If
Uh,
I'm going to get back in the anime the way that I am, especially with this podcast, I think it's probably a good idea that I do that. And to be fair, I had a My Anime List account way back in the day. I wonder if it's still active.
I mean, mine's old from when I first used it.
I'll have
I'm
to
pretty
look
sure
it
it's
up.
not 100% up to date, but it's probably like 80, 90% up to date and stuff like that, as far as like what I've seen and what I haven't. It's just good to be like, oh yeah, I remember that show. But I mean, it's easy because you go through like, oh yeah, I completed it. What I think about it. How many episodes you
Yeah.
watched and stuff like that. It's definitely good.
I don't know if I remember my username, and I don't remember signing up with like Google or anything.
Oh,
Because I used to track my manga that I read too
oh
on
yeah,
here.
it's a little harder to keep track. I mean, worst comes
Yeah,
to worst, you make a new one, but
I
uh,
know, but I want to see what else I watched back in the day.
yeah. Well, for those that have not essentially been initiated for what Chainsaw Man is, essentially your main character Denji is pretty much like a loner kid, teenager. Parents are gone, and kind of life has definitely kicked him down. Though he found a pet little
Saw
demon,
guy.
yeah, a pet little demon dog called Puchita. They was like, oh hey, you're gonna be my friend type thing, and then he would, I think, take on tasks for some old yakuza dude and stuff like that to help pay his dad's debt essentially. Until he was essentially betrayed, then essentially made a contract with his pet devil to save his life, in which he
Yeah.
became some weird demon human hybrid. And that's the whole. He transforms into the Chainsaw Man with the chainsaw for a head and chains on the arms and stuff like that. And that's like the initial introduction for the first episode, more or less, and that's kind of what carries the whole show on. As you go into this bigger world of there's demons and stuff like that, and different aberrations of like what like, demon human hybrids, or demons that take over humans or something like that. But you have the Office of Public Safety that he initially joins, and I guess their ultimate goal is to fight demons, stuff like that, because
Yeah.
they're making problems, killing people and stuff like that. But I don't want to say it's not like super twist and turns, but some of his motivations definitely reminded me of High School DD, as far as how pervy he can get sometimes, because I think he's like 16 when the show starts. So it's like a teenager who's had like very little human contact, but he's got a dream, man, and he really wants that dream. And I just thought the premise at times was pretty funny. As far as the show is obviously really, really bloody and cruel at
Oh,
times.
very how do I put it? It's very brutal at times.
Oh
Very
yeah,
brutal, very gory,
but I like that.
very
It's
yeah,
not
I do too.
it's not gory for the sake of gory for the most part.
No, it makes sense. It's not like what is it? Elden Lee. What's the one
Elfen Lied?
we were talking? Elfen Lied. Isn't
Yeah.
Elfen Lied the one that starts out?
Yeah, I mean that
Yeah,
it's
that's
got a
the
point. That felt more it felt like
that was
shock
shock
value.
value. Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, it technically makes sense. There's other gory shows that technically make sense, but sometimes you can tell like if it's over the top straight for a shock value, or does it properly make sense within the universe. And you can obviously have to shock for the shock value, and it also makes sense in the universe that you're in, more or less.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so with what I watched, I definitely am glad that I chose this because I feel like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably something you would not have watched, right?
Uh,
If I had not recommended it.
well, we hadn't
Or, I
recommended
mean,
it if
not
we hadn't
recommended it,
got.
but suggested it.
It's probably up there because I knew it was popular. There's a lot of popular shows I didn't like, and I just had been out of the loop for so long. There's a lot of decent shows out there. It's not like Attack on Titan, which just seems to be dragging on forever at this point. I can't ever see myself probably going back. It would just take forever. But I saw it, I liked it, and I probably, if I had watched it when it came out, I probably would have watched it then if I was still as into anime. But it's definitely glad that you brought it up because like this is a really good show and probably is a really good manga as well. I probably would have just ignored for the most part and just kept on living on.
Yeah, there might be one already out there. I don't know, but this could also make for a pretty good video game. I feel like in the vein of something like Gungrave or I don't know if you remember the old Gungrave anime, but they made like a couple games for it, and it could be like in the style of potentially that. I feel like there's a way that they can make a pretty good video game out of this, and maybe a couple. I mean, look how many we've gotten out of Sword Art, Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
That some of the games kind of repeat themselves, sort of starting from the beginning of the anime or manga. But I feel like it could make it could work in other mediums, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would say that because from what I understand, there's no official game, officially licensed game. There's obviously fan made games and stuff like that in the grade of like Flash type games, but nothing official. But I think there's a lot of.
I thought Flash games were dead.
I wouldn't. It's a fan game. Some of them the one that I saw looked Flash esque.
Oh,
if it wasn't Flash game, that's the style like a lot of fan games are and stuff like that. But obviously you got like a handful of essentially you got like 4 main characters in the show. So your first main is Denji, the actual the chainsaw man. The show's actually named after with his like chainsaw devil powers. Mikami, which she comes off. I don't know. You're sitting there like I don't know what your ultimate game is, what your ultimate plan. I don't believe you're just kind for the sake of kind. That I don't know. She just comes off as like there's more to this character, and obviously for any decent show,
going on.
you want there to be more. But obviously, at least for what we understand with her crew, she's pulling the strings, making stuff happen. And she's also the one that initially, probably more or less saved Denji from whatever his life was going to be if he wasn't found. Probably death, realistically. And then she gives him, she puts him under the tutelage, I guess you could say, of Aki, another dude who just is kind of monotone for the most part, but he obviously hates devils for stuff that happened in his past. As well as.
Did you watch this subbed or dubbed, by the way?
I watched it dubbed. Sorry.
Okay, so did I.
So then there's I believe they call her a fiend, if I'm not mistaken. But the power, which is another demon. Not like Denji is. I think it's an actual demon that just inhabits a human body, or like a deceased human body, more or less. Who was, better or worse, coerced or, arm twisted into serving in the public safety division as a devil hunter, essentially, because they're all devil hunters for the public safety, whatever their special division or not, and that's essentially the team. And they obviously butt heads, but there's obviously more to or to everybody, certain levels of motivations, whether it's skin deep or it goes a lot deeper than that. But yeah, no, I saw that and I was like, it's not bad. I think there's enough butting of heads and different characters, but there wasn't really a character that really got under my skin for the most part, like you feel like some shows do.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way either. I pretty much like the characters and the just in 2 episodes of kind of the character development, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, and obviously there's more characters that kind of get introduced near the end. There's other characters out there like Kobeni, who is like a really timid girl who's like, I had nothing else to do. I kind of like, give money to my family, and I absolutely hate this job. But she feels like she's at times terrifying and then surprisingly cold, like when you absolutely need her to be.
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
got those vibes too.
And then I believe one of the other main characters that you meet later on, about halfway through, I think, Himeno. I hopefully didn't butcher her name too bad. If I
I
can't,
was saying it Haimo, but
Hayamo.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Who obviously has a past with Aki as like I believe she brought Aki under her tutelage to some degree.
Yeah.
Without spoiling too much of their backstory and stuff like that.
Can we talk about how cool tutelage is of a word?
Tutelage?
Yeah, it sounds like an old timey word, a little bit.
I mean, you say that. Obviously, instructor, tuition.
Yeah, it could just be anything. I want to watch more. I want to finish out the show. I was really excited that we were going to check this out because there's a few shows. I've actually got. Okay, maybe I don't have it right next to me where I can grab it, but I've got a list written down of shows that I want to talk about on here, and I know that you've got some stuff that you want to talk about, but I also jotted down some anime movies because I was like, we hadn't talked about doing that yet either, which would be really easy because you don't have a long season or multiple seasons to watch.
Yeah, it's
so
about a hour and a half to 2 hour movie for the most part.
Yeah, I really want to do I mean, there's tons of anime movies that we can watch, right? Like, I want to do some of the Dragon Ball ones, things like that at some point. But one I was thinking of was Howl's Moving Castle, and then doing Kiki's Delivery Service. So, like, you rewatching it and seeing what your thoughts are, today.
Yeah.
My thoughts haven't changed because I just watched it earlier this year. But, like, kind of. I think anime movies could really fit this format with, being an hour or so or however long that we do it. Makes it a little bit easier, and it could fill out a whole episode dissecting a movie and kind of, so it was just a thought that I had. But yeah, there was a few others I wrote down. I told you before, Cardcaptor Sakura. I want to see, does that still hold up? When we watched it when we were kids. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think it would be fun to do stuff like some of the classic anime. So like Galaxy, what's it, 009? Is that what it's called? Galaxy 009?
Double check real quick.
Or Cyborg 009?
That sounds a lot more similar.
Yeah, I think it's Cyborg 009. And then doing like stuff like even older stuff like Kimba, about the lion, and Astro Boy, like the original, like, kind of dissecting stuff because we like anime of all eras, and it's like that original design, those just the aesthetic. I don't care what anybody says, just the aesthetic of the classic black and white Astro Boy looks beautiful. Like that hand-drawn art just looks beautiful. It holds up today. Even when they colorized it, like I was like, well, this actually to me kind of looks better in black and white because it was intended that way. And you could kind of tell, like with shades and stuff like that, you can kind of tell. Have you ever seen Kimba?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so that'd be a good one to watch. Very much like a Disney-esque movie, but it's just a classic anime movie. I mean, most people, should watch it, I think.
Yeah. And then I know I'm in the process of watching it. It's just really long, but eventually we got to get you around to watching the remake or the reboot of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I haven't watched that yet, but I played the recent games, so I got to see kind of
how off
some
the wall
of the
it
story.
is.
Yeah, It is the wackiest fighter I've ever played in my life. Like it is ridiculous. It's I know you don't like fighting games, but for the sake of it, A being a JoJo game and B being that it's definitely not a traditional fighter. It's just a wacky party. It's not a party game. It's a real fighter, but it feels like a party fighter. It's so over the top. Like I would love just for you to experience that how crazy it is. And it goes on sale all the time. So I think that if you catch a sale on that, you should definitely grab it because I think that's something that'd be cool to stream. And it could contribute to this podcast about talking about it as well because it does have story beats and stuff like that as well with the story mode. So
Yeah. And I guess before we move on, I just want to say I absolutely love the introduction for this show. And it's one of the few that I've watched that actually does like a different indie animation and music for the ending for every show. Obviously, some I liked more than others, but I just thought it's a really unique take as far as like the ending change. It's different for every episode, but with certain things happen in certain episodes, it's definitely like reflecting upon what actually happened, and I definitely really like that.
Yeah, I like it too. Very cool.
Yeah. But as we kind of mentioned, we're in the heat of October. So before we get into like the next topic that I want to talk about, or the following actual anime we wanted to talk about that I know we had watched and just mentioned a little while ago, Elfen Lied. I just wanted to get into some general Halloween discussion, whether it's anime, movies, TV shows, games, and stuff like that. Whether you had like something that you really absolutely like.
Well, I was going to ask you, I was like, why don't we just take advantage of this whole month and just do horror anime stuff?
Yeah.
Whether it be horror manga, anime, games, like horror anime games, because there's plenty of those. I mean, if you would do it with me, I would do it with you because it is an anime-esque game. But the Emio, the Spyling Man, I would totally do that with you. Like I think that's perfect for the month, and it's it's an anime-esque game. It's a Nintendo first-party game, but it's from Famicom Detective Club, which has always been an anime-esque series, and apparently it's very very good. Like you don't have to like visual novels at all to like this game, from what I've heard, and I've heard that from a friend of mine who said the same thing. He does not like visual novels, but this is more of a visual novel detective story, and it's horror centered. So I think that'd be really fun. If you're up for that, I'd grab it, and we could definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Be able to play it, talk about it, and stuff like that this month.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good then.
It's definitely something that we'll take care of and hopefully be here very shortly on the podcast while it's still October. That's the plan. Should be able to some degree.
Yeah, apparently it's not a very long game either, so we should be able to beat it in time to be able to do maybe a spoiler cast, and I don't know how we'd want to do it or whatever.
If you really want to get spooky, you could just hop on Animal Crossing and just put up your Halloween decorations.
I actually considered doing that so I could take a picture.
It is the season.
I haven't logged in a while. I feel bad. All my villagers are probably gone and hate me.
I haven't logged in that game in years at this point since like it
I'll
first
tell
came
you
out.
what, that game saved COVID though. That game sold gangbusters just because of COVID. If it were not for that game at the very beginning, I would have been bored out of my mind. Like it kept me busy in the beginning. Like every Animal Crossing, I play a ton of it when it first comes out for a little while, and then I just completely drop it and just don't touch it again. It happens every time. But like it's worth the experience. When I put over 300 hours into that game, I got my money's worth out of it easy. But then I like just dropped it and never went back.
Yeah, it's pretty much what happened. Though at the time I still had other games I was playing, so I was like, nah, I got plenty of games. Plus I still had to go and work normally, so my life didn't change a whole lot, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but I couldn't just stay home and do nothing.
Right. I did want to say I also did get connected to my anime list, so I got into my old account.
That's definitely good to know. But I guess this one wasn't specific, but like at least as far as like media in Halloween that I can definitely remember. And I'm not a fan of Disney now, but I definitely used to watch some of their old like direct TV movies and stuff they would do for like Disney Channel's.
Halloween Town, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think because you mentioned that the Halloween Town is probably like one of the really good memories I had as like a kid growing up of actually watching. Outside of like Halloween specials.
Yeah, right. Disney Channel was so separate from Disney, though. If you think about it, like none of that. There was like no frosting of it. Disney Channel was way different. I mean, you had like a lot of low budget movies, but were like classics to us that we love. Like Smart House. Do you remember Smart House?
I do a little bit. I know it was a
Oh my
weird
god,
movie.
it was so weird. Like instead of vacuuming the floor would suck everything into the floor. It made no sense. So like if there's popcorn all over the floor, it sucked it into the carpet and cleaned it up.
Yeah, right.
Dude, that movie Smart House is actually it still holds up though. I showed my daughter a few years ago. It's still pretty dang good. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, because I mean, you think of that like old weird movies like that. What's it? Xeon, Girl of the 21st Century.
Yes, yeah,
Another just I don't know, whatever, just kind of sticks in your head. I didn't super
yeah,
care for it when it came out, but just I just remember it really well, even if it's not like
yeah.
rated all that well as like a movie, because it's a kids movie
None
direct
of
to
those are
TV.
probably none of those are rated good. I'm sure,
But they're
but
all for kids essentially, so you don't expect a whole lot of decent
right,
writing out of them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I agree.
and then I know I've seen, I can't remember if you said you've seen it or not, that I think the original dub for it in Japanese was far more horror, but it's got the most iconic English dub of Ghost Stories.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Far less,
yeah, for sure.
more like a spiff on horror at this point with the dub and stuff like that, because it just was a terrible show when it originally came out in Japan. As far as like the only official abridged show you could guess you've said, and I think it's been talked about far and wide as far as like how relevant and funny the show is. I saw that, I was like, this is just iconic, and you can still have horror. You can mix a little bit of horror and comedy, and it can work if it's done well. Or at least in that aspect, I think it definitely works well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
There was some other ones I know I mentioned before. Uh, I definitely want to be able to talk about it before the month is over. Two other ones, because I read the manga. It's just been so long, which is another. And then Hellsing's another one. I think a really decent like horror-esque
Oh,
shows to
Helsing,
talk
yeah,
about.
and Helsing Ultimate.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I loved that. I read all the manga for Helsing, so big fan.
yeah,
But we also talked about Yu Yu Hakusho because I mean Spirit Detective like
yeah.
makes sense.
Like poltergeist type stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That one I'm excited to revisit again because I like to check it out again every few years, and I just love that show, man. I just do. That show will never be something I won't enjoy every single time I watch it.
I guess. Did you ever watch Tokyo Ghoul when it first came out? The show that's
I
infamous for
started,
having
I
a really good first season and everything else is just garbage.
Yes, I started it but did not finish it. And
I
it wasn't because I thought it was bad or anything like that. I just never continued.
I mean, it's hard to think the show is 10 years old at this point. It came out in 2014. I
Crazy.
only ever watched the first season when it came out. Everyone talked about how bad the second season was, but I just never actually got around to watching it. And I was like, oh, it's bad? Oh, I'm not even going to waste my time.
I
The,
know people loved it though. I do know that. I remember people talking and raving about it.
yeah, because it's in the same vein of like, hey, you got a normal like high school character whose life is like twisted upside down or something like that. Now he's got,
Rosario Vampire is another one. I mean,
yeah,
that's horror esque, even though it's more of like a what do you call it, an etch or would
etchy.
it be an etchy?
I think in
Kind of,
some
right?
aspects it is, yeah.
But I mean, it's great. I love it. So big fan of that series too. I've always been a big fan of it.
And then, because I was trying to think of some of the other stuff that I'd watched before. I don't know if I would call like Darker Than Black like horror. It's more like thriller to me. But it's got a dark, eerie feeling to it. I can't remember if you ever watched that.
I don't think I watched. I don't even know
It's
if
from
I
like
what's it called again?
2007. Darker Than Black.
Yeah,
It's
I
got
haven't
two
seen that
seasons
one.
to it. Another
And I
anime that I absolutely hated because I just thought it was weird, which is called Chaos Head. Absolutely love like the
oh
the opening
yes,
to it.
yeah.
The actual show when I first watched it, because I still have it, I was like, I don't even know what's going
That's
on right
one
now.
of the few I still have. One
I
of the
just still,
very few.
I just know your main character is like a neat living in like a Conex-esque box essentially. He just games
Hey,
all day.
if you don't mind, I wanted to share something with you real quick. So I was looking at the My Anime list, and keep in mind, I haven't logged into this since whenever I made it, long time ago. And a couple of highlights on here for my favorite anime. The first one is One Piece, Yu Yu Hakusho, Mayhew, Madoka Magica is number 3.
Oh,
Rurouni
another good
Kenshin.
horror.
Yeah, basically a horror. Yeah, Rurouni Kenshin Special, and hold on, wait, this is that. Oh, Oraimo.
Oh, that infamous
Yeah, I
show.
forgot because it has that long Japanese name, and I always get because it's Ore no Imoto ga Kanami Kawaii Wake ga Nai is the actual name.
No, yeah.
Uh, the first anime figure. Well, that's a lie. It's not the first, but the first one I went out of my way to buy at an anime convention was from Oraimo. I don't know if you remember that. That'd be weird if I still owned that. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of a weird one. I think the main character's like 13 or something.
Oh yeah, definitely really young.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But also my favorite manga, One Piece again, Dragon Ball, Hetalia, Axe Powers, and then my favorite characters, Yukito, Shirayuki, Kusaka Kurini, Yuki Asuna. So this is very, very old. I'm not sure why I have One Piece as my favorite, my top favorite anime and manga. I like it a lot, and this was during the period of time when I was keeping up with it. So that might be why I just haven't kept up with it. And I'll never be able to. I'll just never be able to catch up. There's just no way, unfortunately.
And then I guess because I watched the show and as you're going back and through it for Elfen Lied, I did complete it at one point though, and I went back and watched the first few episodes. And I was like, I understand why I watched this, and I was like, I'm never watching this again. I think it's a really bad show. I at least at the time I
You
gave it
thought
like
Elfen Lied's bad?
I gave it a 6 out of 10 back when we watched
Oh,
it,
on my anime
which
list.
to me was like a really bad score.
Realistically, it's not like a bad score, but I get what you're saying.
Between like some of the character designs, they have like the eyes are weirdly spaced on some of these characters. It's got that really weird like mid 2000s design because this came out in 2004. So it was that shortly after they went to that full digital, some of the character designs just didn't work all that well.
Yeah, I get it. Like it definitely isn't for everybody, and like I shock value only goes so far for me. Like shock value is cool the first time you see it, but like it doesn't like hold up because you're not going to be shocked the same way when you watch it again.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was like one of the things of the show that's why people talked about it because it was all over anime forums. I don't know if you were in any anime forums, but I was in a bunch and people would talk about that like this is the craziest anime of all time. Like this is absolutely insane and stuff like that. And like it was like shocking to see that, an animated show right at the beginning of the show be that way. But I think the show's, I mean, like I don't like to give ratings, but I would give it like a 7.5. Like I think it's a good show. I don't think it's a great show.
I think if I went back and properly rated this, I'd definitely probably lower my score on it.
Are you
now.
serious?
Yeah, probably. I went back and rewatched it. Like outside of that first episode, I was like, I think I watched the first 3 again. I was like, I just didn't care for it. It just dropped off a cliff for me.
Oh man, yeah, it's nothing amazing. It's
and
very
then,
average.
As time went on, I didn't care for the opening either. I just don't feel like it kind of fits, but not really.
Skip those openings, man. If
for
it's
this
the
one, I
same
just
one
don't
every
think it's
time-
good.
Yeah.
No, because some like obviously with the Chainsaw, I like it. I watch it every time because the song itself is catchy and it's got good visuals. It's a super bland, like gothic Lolita type opening is what it feels like. I know it's not like a 1-for-1, but it's kind of like it's like a rustic gothic like medieval Europe type feel to it, which I don't. To me, it just didn't fit the show at all.
No, I get that.
Then I didn't grab it, and I didn't really gravitate towards it a whole lot. Yeah, but I mean, for the show, main character Lucy, what they call is a special human. They call a Diclonius. You think of like homunculus. It sounds a lot better, but Diclonius. I don't know if it's like a spin on the word. But obviously she's got some weird like telepathic powers, which you see in the first episode. She breaks out with these more or less like invisible hands that are just murking literally everybody. But she's also got this weird split personality where either she's like a very innocent, but when she like goes to her other personality, it's like a ruthless murderer. It just murks everybody in sight. Just no care at all.
Why? It's wild.
Yeah, and then because I think the other 2 characters that she ran into, what is it, Kota and Mayu? That's right.
Yeah.
because I think Lucy's other personality is Nana, if I'm not mistaken. I might be getting that wrong.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. I don't remember what the 2 episodes I watched.
Yeah, I just can't remember off the top of my head. But I do know she runs into essentially 2 innocent kids and more or less kind of messes with their, I would say, ruin their lives to some degree, if not,
Yeah.
scars them to some degree.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, oh no, you're messing with some kind of government experiment or corporate experiment. Like you're gonna have a bad time. I'm sorry. I guess if there's anything else you wanted to say about the show, because I mean, I want to talk, but I was like, I know it's
Yeah, I mean,
iconic, but I was like, I don't care for the show as it stands right now.
I don't really have anything else to say about it. I think it's mediocre. Like the shock value doesn't hold up when you rewatch it. It's fine for what it is. I don't hate it. I don't rate it as low as you do, but it's like it's fine. I mean, that's how I feel about it. It's just fine.
I would say, and I don't know if I guess you could technically make this horror. I think School Days does the weird
School
horror
Days
thing
is
a
cool.
whole lot better. As much as that was infamously, hated on, I thought rightfully so. Because it just feels like everyone. Because I can't remember which one of the chicks just like stabs the main dude like in the middle of the show or like at the end of the show or something like that. Because the main dude in that is like he's like a scumbag. He's like 2-timing 2 different girls.
Yeah, sounds like a high school student. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
it reminds
like
me of a
I'm gonna be
young me. Not
I'm
really,
gonna,
but
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, I wasn't necessarily the best like boyfriend or partner out there,
yeah,
and especially in high school, man, young
I
and dumb.
I had no chicks in high school. I was not that kind of kid.
Bro, yes, you did. Stop it,
No, absolutely not.
bro. You had all the chicks in high school. Are you kidding me?
You 100% know that's a lie.
What? No, no, it's not, man. Stop it. Quit making people think you're a weeb.
Back then, I probably was far more than I am. Well, not really much
Well,
of one now, but
you didn't really get into anime until after, right?
maybe junior senior year of high school at the earliest.
Yeah,
But it
was
really didn't kick
mild
into
at
it
that
didn't really
point.
kick into full gear till like I think it was like 18 to 22 23 was like the phase I was like really into it. That's about the time a lot of these shows that we were watching were coming out for the most part, or
Yeah.
that had come out 5 years prior, but they were still relevant because the community is small and the amount of shows that you're getting at the time was still small.
Yeah.
Which is why stuff from like 2000, from like the mid 90s, like 2005 was still like hyper relevant at the time, or movies from like the late 80s.
Right.
Or at the very least, it's like, oh, you see this, how gory it is? Like, oh man, like Samurai X.
Love
Uh,
Samurai X, man.
but I do remember, I can't remember for Corpse Party. I thought I remember that being the game, or was that Danganronpa?
Yeah, it's on Vita. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess I know it's an anime, or I think it's probably either a light novel, probably, or a manga.
Danganronpa is one of the exception light novels for me because I think it's very horror esque. It's really good. I think all the Danganronpa games are fantastic.
Okay, no, yeah, so yeah, but for Corpse, I guess it started as a game, and then it got an anime adaptation. It's
Yeah,
another
sounds right, 'cause I
horror
had
one
it
that got
on Vita.
popular, but I just never got into it at the time. But I knew it was like relevant in the community back in like the
Well,
2000s, 2010s.
It's very high School of the Dead esque.
As far as some of the drama,
Party. Yeah.
just without the high paced zombie drama and all the tits in your face, which everyone loves.
Yeah, there
High
was
School
a
of the Dead
lot of
for.
that. I don't pay attention to that stuff, so I didn't even notice. But I did kind of notice going back because I watched a couple episodes, probably about sometime during COVID. And I was like, oh yeah, this is very apparent. This is why people like this. But to me, I actually think it's like a good show. I think it's a pretty good show. I mean, I'm kind of tired of the zombie crap, but I think it's good.
I mean, at the time, but I think zombies kind of fallen off, and zombie never really took off. Like none of the zombie shows and animes, it feels like that was just kind of left, kind of barren. But I get at the time, at least in the U.S., there was a lot of zombie shows from The
tons,
Walking
yeah.
Dead to the terrible movie adaptations of what is that game? These Resident Evil. Sorry, blanked on the name. The Resident
You
Evil
had to
movies, which
pull up
people hated.
Resident Evil.
I'm sorry, I blanked on the name real quick. I just didn't want to completely ruin it. We're getting a lot of those movies. World War Z. Though I know people absolutely hated the Resident Evil movies because they're terrible adaptations of the games. You know,
Yeah,
Shaun
the
of the
movies
Dead
are
and some other
terrible.
stuff. So I get at least here in the West why it was. You're kind of getting burnt out on it, and it never really. It feels like anime never really gravitated towards getting a really good zombie show. Or I
Yeah.
don't know. I thought the High School of the Dead, as far as like a zombie manga and stuff like that, I thought it was fairly decent because at least the manga, to some degree, tones down the titillation, sexuality
The
into it. But it's
titillation.
obviously still relevant there. It's a decent story. It's just unfortunate that the author went on hiatus. You had the 2011 tsunamis and stuff like that, and then the author eventually passed away. So that was just kind of left forever
Yeah.
to be incomplete, which sucks because I still thought it had a decent story. But do you have like any specific like horror games that you really like? Really like? I mean, obviously Resident Evil's a big, really popular one, but
Well, I just made a post today, actually Resident Evil related, so I'll just reference that real quick. So if you're following on Facebook, I also put it as a YouTube community tab, but I asked, what is your favorite version of Resident Evil 1? Because there's a bunch of different ways to play. So there is Resident Evil 1 just by itself for PS1, but then you've got Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut for PS1. You got Resident Evil for Sega Saturn. You got Resident Evil Deadly Silence for DS, which is a remake of Resident Evil 1. And then you've got the GameCube remake of Resident Evil 1. So I just asked that. So just kind of bringing up the topic there. But as far as like favorite horror games, I really gravitate. See, like it's hard because like horror games for me, there's so many that I like, but there's like I I don't know. I would have to say probably for sure Resident Evil. I mean not Resident Evil, Silent Hill. Whether or not it's 2 or 3 for me, I don't know. Um but one of my favorite underrated horror series that a lot of people don't talk about because we got some over here in the US, but we didn't get a lot. It's very Japanese. It's called Fatal Frame.
oh
I don't know
yeah,
if you've heard of those.
I
Yeah,
have.
so those games are phenomenal. I played every one of them that I've been able to play that have came out here, and I imported. I forget what the one for the Switch was called, but I imported that from Japan to play it. So obviously I couldn't read the text. It wasn't multi-language, but it was the Maiden of Water, I think it was called something like the Maiden of Black or the Maiden, something like that. But Fatal Frame, I think, is really cool because the concept of it, I mean, makes sense. Like you can't see anything until you have your camera out. So you need to have your camera out to get through the game. So it's got this gimmick that works. And it reminds me of it semi reminds me of like the Ring movies, which is also a
Oh yeah,
Japanese series. Ringu is what it's called there. And it also has video games as well. Which I actually didn't know that for a very long time that The Ring was based off of a Japanese movie series. But yeah, I think Fatal Frame for sure. Um, I don't know. I would probably just go Silent Hill 3 if I'm going to like choose just one. But I do like 1 and 2 as well. Uh, Talking Resident Evil, it's not as horror-ish, but it's also kind of underrated, and also it got really bad reviews when it came out from critics. Although now it has very much a cult following, which is Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. Or sorry, Operation Raccoon City. Umbrella Chronicles is the Wii game that's like it's almost like a gallery target shooting game. So you remember House of the Dead?
yeah, I do.
Okay, so it plays like that. You could use the Wii Zapper and you had to get through the mansions, stuff like that. And then like I guess like other horror games would be like something like what's the one? Oh, Dimension the Ward, which was a DS game. Dimension the Ward. There's also the Ward 2.
Yeah.
I absolutely love those games.
Yeah, because as
Um,
far as like it's a lot of horror games. I guess technically the last one I played, if you want to call it that, was Dead by Daylight. That's more of like
Ugh,
it's a
yuck.
multiplayer-esque type game. I really wouldn't full go in on that. But in the last, I think it was like around 2021, I went back and tried to play the first Resident Evil game when I don't know if they remastered it, they just re-released it because it still played like the old game on, like I
Yeah,
had PS4 at the time.
yeah.
I just know when like I got like
The
decent way through the
tank
game.
controls.
Yeah, it was a frustrating game to get through.
So Deadly Silence fixes it still has tank controls because it sticks to that original format where you needed the tank controls to be scarier, right?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't move as fast. But it fixes that too. It fixes it where the tank controls are more controllable. But if you're going to go back and play, I would recommend Deadly Silence or recommend playing the remake for GameCube because they completely from the ground up remade the game on GameCube and no tank controls.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
gotta
really good.
I have to ask because I guess I technically did play this one, but I think I've got like less than 10 hours. Maybe I got maybe probably 5 hours in this game. Did you ever get around to playing Phasmophobia?
Yes, I did. I have it on PC. Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
really interesting game as far as like going after ghosts, but I thought I far had more fun just messing with everybody else I was playing with than actually dealing with the actual what's the ghost to the paranormal stuff that you're actually trying to hunt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it just feels we failed every time we went in. It's like, yeah, this is gonna end pretty badly.
I've played very minimal of it. I got it because a friend was playing it. I played it twice. So I don't know if it's still actively played a lot, but I wouldn't mind revisiting that sometime to actually take advantage of owning it.
Might have to try to find time to hop on and play the game again. Oh,
yeah, for sure. Because I PC, like I said, I haven't really played any games on my PC yet. So
yeah, it's definitely a good excuse. And then I know I've had this game. I feel like I've had it for like almost 2 years now, and I've yet to play it. And I was like, you know what? Need to dedicate to playing this, and I probably should play it on a stream. But a Doki Doki Literature Club, which I think feels
yes,
right
love it.
into a Halloween game.
Yeah,
Though, because of how infamous it was, if you didn't play it at launch, to some degree, kind of like, okay, I know that there's some weird stuff kind of coming along as far as like quasi spoilers, but I was like, I still could probably hop into play because I don't really know anything about the game itself. But I've got it
right.
for PS5 sitting on my shelf. It's just not actually been put into my PlayStation and actually played.
It's a
But
very short game,
yeah,
and
I don't think it was
it's
super
very
long.
fun.
But yeah, when it first came out, I definitely know it's like, oh, a lot of people, because it gives off this more cutesy feel to it, which is
Yeah,
not what it is at all. Which
right.
I don't think it's like the first time something like that's happened. But it didn't really have effectively because nobody expected it going into it.
Nobody expected it because nowhere on the game case, nowhere in like the promotional material put out was there anything to suggest that this would be a horror-esque game.
I mean, the name is Doki Doki Literature Club. It comes off as a standard, like visual novel from Japan.
Yeah,
'Cause I played a few
yeah,
before, and it's just, sometimes you've got a lot of interaction, sometimes it's really minimal. It's just like, oh, this is some really high school girl story, and then it just slowly goes down to through insanity essentially.
yeah. It's pretty crazy for sure.
You wanna know what's crazy is that game came out in 2017.
That's wild.
How long that's been?
That is
The
absolutely
game came
wild.
out 7 years ago.
Gee, man, Christmas. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, but if you don't feel old yet, I was like, oh, that game came out like 2-3 years ago. No,
It feels like it did, but also it feels like the consoles just came out a couple years ago. Like
yeah,
I
because like
can't
what?
believe it's been almost 5 years now. I mean, well, it's 4 years now. Like they came out in September, so
Yeah, because like I got really lucky on my PS5, only to be like, outside of the SSD, there's no real benefit to having this.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely definitely wild, man. How fast time goes by. It's crazy.
Yeah, but no, I think at least moving forward, gonna try to do some more, probably a mixture, because I know obviously you said, what was it, Card Captor Sakura? Wanted to
Yeah, I think
watch.
that'd be fun to do.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then at the very least, probably as well for the next episode, since we're just still in Halloween, try to find a horror movie. Don't have anything immediately planned up right now. I had some other shows, but I mean, you mentioned it, so I was like, I could probably do that. Do a movie. It's some really good stuff as far as what's coming up next week as we kind of continue along. Halloween, October, Spooktober before we kind of move on, and then once November 1st hits, it's all Christmas at that point. So what's the
Yeah, I
meme?
say
It's
uh
Mariah Carey's about to awaken.
No, I say we take advantage of this month and go all in on the horror, and then come Christmas time, we can do the same thing. I mean,
Hey,
there's plenty of Christmas specials,
all I'm
and
saying is a good Mariah Carey Christmas themed horror. It's a great transition right there. I know there's like a few Christmas like what's it Krampus movies and stuff like that where it's like
yeah,
it's Christmas but it mixes a little
and
bit of horror
Black
in.
Christmas is a good one
Yeah,
too.
I definitely know. I don't know why it came into my mind. It's like that's a really good setup for a unsuspecting horror, whether it's a show or a game or a book or something like that. But yeah, we obviously have got a lot of good stuff to talk about, and as well as if you're made it to the end of this, over on the YouTube for the Game Junction and over on Twitch. I'm about to say Twitter, like that's not the right name. But over on Twitch for Game Junction Media, you can catch us live streaming and stuff like that. I believe we are every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna do like a some kind of live stream, you and me together. Obviously, we've got the other Game Junction podcast, same time on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Was there other days you were trying to stream as well?
So I don't know yet for this week, but I am going to because I'm still playing through Zelda, and my goal is A, to have you start it, but B, I would like to have it finished because we got Nintendo Bike podcast Wednesday. I'm not even close yet. Like I said, I just now got to the second dungeon. I haven't even started it yet. Like I paused right when I got in. So my goal is to try to have it beat by next week. But we'll see. I mean, like today, as I told you, today's been pretty crazy. It's been the craziest day in a while. But yeah, that I'm planning on streaming Zelda, and then I think me and you talked about every now and again breaking up. It would actually be cool if we can do it an extra day instead of just not doing it. But we talked about breaking up the Gears of War streams every now and
Yeah.
again. We've got like
All right,
Ant Stream who provided us with codes for their service, and there's plenty of other games too. So
Yeah. It's not
either an extra day or to break up a week or something like that.
Yeah, because I mean we're the process of wanting to play all those games. It's there's 5 games. It's gonna take a while to kind of co-op. Plus we're in October. Try to find a day to play some horror games, whether that's kind of individually or try to find some co-op stuff like the Phasmophobia we were just talking about. So a lot of good stuff outside of this anime cast right here on the Junction Network. As well as got some other videos coming out over here on the Junction Network. We just had fall anime just release this past week.
Yes.
From when we're recording this, it'll be like a week late by the time this podcast comes out. But a lot of other stuff coming on the Junction Network that's going to be explicitly like anime related stuff like that. So definitely look forward to that. And we will see you all next week for another October episode.
Yeah, and then definitely find me on my anime list. It's Game Junction. Just change the name, so I'm on there.
Yeah, I guess I should start posting
Well,
mine
what's
down
your
below.
username? I'll add you on there too.
I will pull it up. I guess I'll pull it up in a second. When this comes out, I'll make sure they're both linked in the description below and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, we will see you all next week. You have a good week.
Later, guys.